This is what we're going to cover tonight. 4 things: industry-wide myths that everyone treats as facts, but are actually damaging to the profession; herbal mistakes that most people are making, including you; how our herbal education didn't set us up for real life patients, so we've been prescribing the wrong stuff; and then, of course, how to make an extra 15K in just 4 months without having to hustle more. So, which is always important. But first, we're going to do some introductions. I'm Rebecca, and Michael is the other person here whose camera is off now. Hi. Rebecca Ong, Michael Peluso. We're respectively the CEO and CVO of TCM Hub. For those of you who are not familiar with us, we are acupuncturists as well and herbalists as well. And we are the co-creators and co-instructors of the Harmonize training. Unfortunately, who couldn't be with us tonight is our fellow instructor, Chris Valesky. He is the Director of Clinical Education for TCM Hub, also a co-creator and co-instructor for Harmonize. He does have his practice outside of Denver, Colorado in Longmont, very busy practice, as well as his herbal company, which is called Rocky Mountain Herb Supply. So the 3 of us, we've been teaching Harmonize for the past couple of years. We started this in just about exactly 2 years ago. And in that time, we've trained over 100 of your colleagues with the Harmonize system. And as far as our mission for Harmonize, it's twofold. And one is to get more people in the world addressing Chinese medicine, addressing their health with Chinese medicine. And 2 is to teach Chinese medicine doctors the most effective way to make number 1 happen while making a very good living doing it. Just to make sure that you are in the right place. This class is not going to be for you if you're actually not a trained or licensed Chinese medicine herbalist. So that means if you have not had any formal training and or you have not actually, whatever state that you live in or country that you live in does not allow you to practice herbal medicine without a formal training. So that's really what this is going to be for. So if that is not you, you're probably not going to find this very helpful. This is also not for you if you don't own your own clinic and have no decision-making power over your inventory or your pricing. If you're not interested in simplifying and streamlining your herbal medicine practice. And this is also not for you if you like wasting time and money. Who this is for is who we are calling the struggling herbalist. And on the whole, the struggling herbalist says, I want to practice more herbal medicine, get patients better faster, free up more time for myself. But the struggling herbalist doesn't have the extra time that it takes to do a full herbal medicine intake, diagnosis, and prescription. They can't make enough money with herbs to make it worth the time that it requires to practice herbal medicine. They don't know how to convince patients to take them and stay committed. And convince is emphasized there because that is something that a lot of people feel like they have to do to get their patients to take it. We don't promote convincing your patients to do anything. Okay. And struggling herbalists will say they don't have the space for an herbal pharmacy. And so the ways that they'll try to remedy these situations or find solutions for these situations, they'll combine the acupuncture appointment with the herbal consult because the patient is already coming in anyway. This is something that we're going to highlight again because this is a very big problem in our field. They don't prescribe at all. They won't prescribe herbal medicine at all and ending up relying entirely on acupuncture. But that takes time too. It takes a lot of time. They'll sell tea pills, tinctures, or other ready-made formulas, but they provide little or no profit and often are not strong enough. And patients still just don't take them consistently anyway. And they rely on outside dispensaries and drop shipping, but this makes it actually impossible to make the necessary formula adjustments as needed. So we're going to show you how to fix all that, right? But we're going to go one by one with our agenda. And so first on the agenda here are the industry-wide myths that everyone treats as facts. So this first myth is, to get a proper diagnosis and select the right formula, you have to spend at least 45 minutes to an hour with the patient in order to collect all the information that you need. So I'm going to use an analogy here, the analogy of a mechanic. An expert mechanic doesn't take apart the whole engine to find where the problem is. They know exactly where to look, right? So what really is happening here when someone is spending a lot of time asking questions, um, it's often it's more an issue of a lack of confidence on the practitioner. So they're just kind of spinning, asking a lot of questions, hoping that more questions reveal more answers. But really, in the end, spending an hour or plus, or spending a long time actually overwhelms both the practitioner and the patient, making the diagnosis actually less clear. It doesn't guarantee a better diagnosis. It just adds more noise to the signal. And I just want to note, like, patients actually, they don't want to be in your office more than they have to be. Most people are busy. Most people have lives. If if they don't have to be in the office for an hour, if it's possible for them to be there for less, it means more time for them to get on with their life. Patients don't actually want to be in your office more than they have to be. Okay. So myth number 2, if a patient's already coming in for acupuncture, there's no need to charge for an herbal medicine consultation. So I'm going to use another analogy here, and that's the dentist. So have you ever been to a dentist and then had more than one procedure in the same visit? And if so, were you billed for just the one fee of the visit? I'm going to go ahead and say no. You're billed for every procedure, even though they're all in the same visit. So herbal medicine, the practice of herbal medicine, is more than just that chat or it's more than just the face-to-face time. It's actually the most cognitively demanding activity you engage in your practice. And it requires the greatest responsibility, and it produces the strongest results. But this myth, the results of this myth is that you just end up working for free, right? You eliminate a legitimate income stream from your business. And from the patient point of view, your patient sees herbal medicine as like some kind of add-on to their real treatment, which is acupuncture, which effectively trains them not to take it seriously. And then, of course, compliance will tank. So myth number 3, patients just don't want to take herbs. And we actually heard this from one of our Harmonize students. She was still in school, and her supervisor in student clinic told her that don't even really bother. Patients don't like to take herbs. And this is someone who's about to graduate. Anyway, but here's the thing. If this was true, then how is it that the natural supplement industry makes billions of dollars a year and continues to grow year after year? And like, here's another question. Is it true that all patients feel this way? Or are there some who might think, or who actually may be more open to it than you think? And as we're going to, kind of highlight towards the end, there are entire practices thriving on herbal medicine sales. Your colleagues are thriving on herbal medicine sales. So if patients don't want it, how do you explain their success, right? So this myth, what it results in is that you just don't bother prescribing herbal medicine. And by making that decision for your patient, you disempower your patients by making this decision for them instead of letting them decide for themselves. And really, in the end, patients are actually looking for an outcome. They don't really care so much about the how. And it comes down to good communication and your own confidence that what you're prescribing is in the patient's best interest. Excuse me. So the struggling herbalist wants to have a streamlined approach to integrating herbal medicine, wants to feel confident in their diagnostic skills and communication with their patients and presenting care plans. They want to have a system that would provide measurable financial returns to justify that effort that they put into practicing herbal medicine. And they want to save years of trial and error in building a successful practice. And of course, they want to have a sense of belonging and a network of like-minded professionals for ongoing support and mentorship. This is a lonely field. We all practice by ourselves, right? So this is exactly what the Harmonize doc has. They can complete an intake, diagnosis, and prescription, and fill the formula, the granule formula, in 15 to 20 minutes. They have more herb-only patients and have less reliance on in-person acupuncture. Patients are getting better faster because they're actually completing their full treatment plans. It's funny how that works. Um, they have increased revenue to reinvest into their business, to put towards savings, put towards their student loans, put towards their retirement. And they have a community of friends and colleagues all building herbal medicine practices in Hub Community and Harmonize Connect. And just a quick explanation, Hub Community actually is our community space, and that is held on not on Facebook. And Harmonize Connect is actually a 6-month back-end support that is included with the Harmonize training. So it doesn't end after the end of the weekend. It goes on after that. So the Harmonize doc does all this through the Harmonize system. So the system addresses 3 pillars that are essential for the successful practice of herbal medicine. We have methods for efficient diagnosis and prescription, ensuring patient commitment, and also selling from an authentic place. And these are all the methods that we use to achieve each pillar. And I'll just kind of go over quickly each one. So the methods we teach to ensure efficient DX and RX are the TCM Hub intake form. This is something that some of you may have already seen or may already have, especially if you're a member of Hub Community, or maybe you received it from a colleague. That's totally fine. You know, we don't gatekeep any of our stuff. So if you have it, it's totally cool. But if you don't know anything about it, it's simple. It's a simple 1-page intake form that's designed to ask targeted questions to your patient and this actually will get you at least 80% of the way toward making your diagnosis in most cases. Now, we teach also a pulse system based off of the work of the great Dr. Jimmy Chang. This pulse system, it's so easy to learn that by the end of the weekend, you'll be able to use it. It's just so easy to learn, and it's incredibly accurate. And it actually tells you what is going on with the patient. It's kind of ridiculous that we ever learned anything else. We also teach you a tongue diagnosis that is, again, simple, accurate, and you'll just be using it by the end of the weekend, after the end of the weekend. And of course, we have the Harmonized Streamlined Pharmacy. The Harmonized Pharmacy consists of only about 20 carefully and strategically chosen formulas to use. So 20, by the way. Now, for the patient commitment, we focus heavily on taking the patient on a journey from start to finish. This means setting expectations at each stage of that patient's journey, from the first phone call to the onboarding process and creating a full treatment plan. This here really is one of the reasons why patients don't stay committed to their treatment plan or why they don't get on board at all. It's because, especially with herbal medicine, is because the practitioner hasn't done a complete enough job of setting expectations. And last, but certainly not least, we teach sales because sales are important. Sales is simply the act of connecting your solution to someone's problem and then exchanging money for the value that you provide, right? So now we don't promote aggressive sales techniques. Asking for money when done from a place of compassion and in the highest service to the patient, it always results in better outcomes for everyone involved, okay? Our perspective is that it's not just about closing the sale, okay? In fact, our philosophy includes that sometimes you don't accept a patient if you feel that your solution isn't the best fit for them. Yeah, some people will call that leaving money on the table, but we just call it the right thing to do. So, but sales is the most, something most people are the most uncomfortable with, right? And they have very little experience with it. So we help you along with scripts and to start you out and teach you proper communication and how to field your patient's questions with clarity, and teach you some tools that will help you get yourself in a good headspace before, during, and after the sales interaction. Okay, on to the next part of the agenda. Everybody still good? Okay. Let's see here. One sec. All right, so we're moving on. The herbal medicine mistakes that most people make, including you. So what this section here, it's called My 7 Herbal Mistakes. And I'm going to be taking you through the exact process that I used to go through early in my career when it came to prescribing herbal medicine. So, just for fun, if any of these resonate with you, or maybe these are ones that you do, go ahead and hit that hand raise button as I'm going along. Let's just kind of see, just for fun. Okay. So, when I started practicing, I bought a large granule pharmacy. I was trained to write prescriptions from scratch and combine single herbs to create a formula. So I had a ton of bottles on my shelf from the get-go. I would see a patient a few times for acupuncture, and then when I wasn't seeing results, I would ask the patient if they wanted to try herbs. They would say yes, and so I would pull out the books and spend the next 1 to 2 hours poring over them to create the perfect prescription. I would mix it up, price it out by the gram, price the herbs out by the gram, and give it to the patient. And I would give it to the patient at the end of their next acupuncture treatment and charge them for the acupuncture visit only and the cost of the herbs. At their next acupuncture visit, they would report no change from the herbs. They didn't take them as prescribed because they kept forgetting or they just didn't like the taste. Then the patient wouldn't be interested in trying herbs anymore. So I played around with, tinctures and pills and capsules and hoping that this would increase compliance, but that did not work out. So I just assumed that people only wanted acupuncture. And I was tired of wasting my time and my money on shit that nobody wanted. And my collection of powerful medicinals was reduced to a cool looking wall display because I couldn't get patients to take them and I couldn't make practicing herbs profitable. So I don't know if anybody raised their hand because Michael's seeing that part, but
Oh,
anybody?
yes. There were some hands raised for sure. Yes.
Yeah. Now I'm sharing my screen, so I can't see that part, which is kind of a bummer. Oh well. All right. Cool. So I'm glad that. Well, I'm not glad that resonated, but we hear you. That's basically the sense here. So we learned that practicing this way, it sets herbal medicine up as an optional add-on to acupuncture in the eyes of the patient. It makes it difficult to get patients to commit to care. And it results in a significant loss of time and money. And it kills your confidence and starts building resentment. And then it just turns your pharmacy into a wall display that collects dust, right? So how does this happen, right? This, a lot of hands up. So that means a lot of people are doing the same thing. How does this happen? And it's really because we were never taught a model for practicing herbal medicine. Not really. All we had to go on was student clinic. At least with acupuncture, you can acupuncture, you can treat it as a fee for service. It's in a way, it's almost like a very similar model to how people run their massage practices, right? That fee for service model. But with herbal medicine, we never really saw it work. And if your student clinic was anything like mine, I think in my entire herbal clinic experience, I want to say I had 5 patients. It was never a full schedule. There were never enough patients to treat. We would try to be treating each other, the interns, just so we had some practice. If we did have people on the schedule, they didn't show up. We didn't learn how to set expectations. We didn't know how to give a treatment plan. My clinic, we didn't handle any of the money or the scheduling, so there was none of that experience. You were never really able to see a patient all the way through a full plan. And even if you did have patients, in my experience, they hardly ever picked up their herbs. So it was just kind of a massive waste of time. It was such a disappointment. So I think a lot of people can resonate with that. And that was our only experience that we got practicing herbal medicines until we were thrown out into the wild, right? So, but really it's a travesty because with herbal medicine, you spend the most time studying it and spend the least amount of time practicing it. And it really is just a massive shame that that is the case. So, all right. Next up, how our herbal education didn't set us up for real life patients. And so we've been prescribing this wrong stuff.
We think that the medicine that we're practicing needs to be dialed in. It needs to be very, very appropriate for population, place, and time. That's one of the ways that we've been able to streamline this system to make it work really well. And we believe that it needs to be very fast acting. In other words, it needs to be very time efficient, and it needs to be very cost effective for the patient, because patients are in modern Western societies, and whether we like it or not, the expectations of outcome and the power of medicine and the speed at which it delivers a result is set by Western medicine. And if you know how to use Chinese herbal medicine well, you can deliver results very, very quickly and very powerfully. And so we believe that that's necessary for people to know how to do. And the big thing is because it's a different world than when Chinese medicine was introduced to the West 40 years ago or so. The system must generate income capable of paying back a six-figure student debt. What this means is that it needs to be able to generate six figures. And that means acupuncture and herbal medicine need to be able to generate six-figure incomes, okay, for you to be able to appropriately address these debts, okay? And that's what we're designing. So the big picture of what we're talking about is that the system needs to be simple, fast, and profitable. And that's going to increase your confidence, your time, and your patient commitment, right? Your time, you're going to have more free time, okay? Which is what people want. Okay, so how do we accomplish this? This is what you're here, meat and potatoes, right? How do we do this? Well, I have to set the stage for you so you understand how we arrive at what we do, and I'm going to make this case for you, and I think you're going to find it compelling. This is tongue-in-cheek, but it's true. Modern Western patients are not Han Dynasty subsistence farmers. What that means is that they're not close to the bone. They're not on the border of starvation generally, okay? It's a very different world, and Chinese medicine, in its written history of 2,000 to 2,200 years, conservatively, has a huge arc. And there are different time periods in which different patient bases were being addressed through different health concerns or different health crises, climates, all of these things, okay? Modern patients are not performing backbreaking labor. Not here in the West, typically. This is not the patient that we're seeing on average. They're not constantly exposed to the elements, whether that's hot or cold or being damp all the time. There's air conditioning, climate control, nice warm beds, you know, all of that stuff. Okay, so they're not constantly exposed to the elements, plowing a field in several layers of cotton clothing, going home and sleeping on a floor that's damp or mud or something like that. They are not underfed or undernourished. Now, you can make certainly a very valid argument as far as nutrition goes and deficiencies, but we're talking about calories. So from a caloric perspective, modern patients are actually incredibly robust and very much overfed. They certainly are not constantly afflicted with external contractions of evils. And this means infectious disease. For the vast majority of human history, infectious disease is the thing that killed most people in some way, shape, or form. From a tiny cut getting infected to some nasty parasite you got from just trying to drink some water, right? This, again, typically is not the thing that is affecting the vast majority of the Western world and the patients that we're seeing the last, several years with COVID notwithstanding, okay? Modern patients also don't lack hygiene. They have good basic hygiene. If they get cut, they can wash themselves. If they're dirty, they can wash themselves. We have soap. We can clean ourselves. And so these are just major steps in basic medical care that we have that keep us really separated from the vast majority of humans in history. Okay, so it's just a different ballgame. So we, as patients, if we want to look and examine the arc of Chinese medical history, we actually settle in really nicely during the Jin Yuan dynasty as aristocrats in the scheme of things. And what this means is Li Dongyuan, which you'll know from the founder of the Earth School and the composer of Buzhong Yiqitang, which we actually don't use very much, interestingly enough, Li Dongyuan found himself smack dab in the middle of the Jin Yuan dynasty. And during that time, there was this increased citification. And this is going to be a very short history lesson, so bear with me. It's relevant. People were moving from the countryside into more urban settings, okay? And meaning they were living in cities. Very much, in many ways, things that you might even recognize today. His focus, Li Dongyuan's focus as a physician, his focus was on government officials, bureaucrats, urban people. These are people who are working indoors. These are people who are sitting a lot. These are people who are thinking a lot. These are, bean counters, right? These are bureaucrats. These are heady people, right? And they were influenced so heavily by this fascinating northern Chinese diet, which was rich in beef, lamb, wheat, and alcohol. Now I'm going to pause and ask you, I'm going to look straight at the camera. Does this sound like any population that you might recognize? All right. So the point is the focus shifted away from the external contraction of disease, which had dominated Chinese medicine in many ways for the last 1,000 years, toward internally engendering disease. It was Li Dongyuan that really started to pay attention to, these people are actually eating themselves into illness. They're overthinking themselves into illness. They are sitting and causing stagnation. That's a fascinating development. It seems old hat, and most of Li Dongyuan's theories these days are just part and parcel of standard Chinese medicine. But at the time, imagine how revolutionary, right? This plays beautifully into our modern patient base. Li Dongyuan's theories are used for autoimmune diseases, incredibly effective, okay? So that's where we take our cue, because we focus on the middle jiao. The middle jiao for modern patients is so critical. This means basically the spleen and stomach, the earth school of Li Dongyuan, and of course the liver, just by extension, right? Because it's a statement of fact in Chinese medicine. Liver disease is spleen disease is liver disease. Basically, as the middle jiao goes, so goes the rest of the body. So we at TCM Hub love Li Dongyuan, and we're very influenced by the middle jiao being in order. So what does this mean for modern patients then? Let's check this out. Modern patients come to you with chronic and enduring diseases. These are these knotty diseases, these difficult to treat things. In other words, a modern patient isn't typically coming to a practitioner of Chinese medicine with a cough or a sniffle on average. They're usually coming to you as a practitioner of last resort. This means they've been to everyone else. And short of like running around them shaking a chicken, they're gonna give you a shot, basically. And so that's kind of where we stack up in the scheme of things at this juncture. So chronic enduring diseases, all right? This leads to what we call the bell curve in TCM Hub. 85% or so of your patients, because they have chronic enduring diseases, are going to manifest with these 5 or so patterns. Qi stagnation, heat, blood stasis, damp and phlegm, qi deficiency. These are the heart and soul of what 85% of modern patients show up with due to the middle jiao beginning with the middle jiao disruption and all of the trouble that comes from that, which we're going to get into here in just a moment. In TCM school, they're not wrong, but oftentimes everybody's deficient, right? Oh, I'm studying so hard. I'm so deficient. My spleen is taking a hit. I'm so deficient. I'm so deficient. Yes, in a sense, that's true. You're probably not eating well. You're probably not getting enough rest, and you're doing a lot of heady activity. And so you are plundering your spleen. But in real life, again, liver disease is spleen disease is liver disease. These are inextricably linked. And so once you have a liver-spleen disharmony, then all of the other hell breaks loose in the rest of the body, which we'll take a look at here. So one of the reasons why qi deficiency is a problem when you think about it on its face is that it's a solitary pattern which doesn't really exist in real life. In real life patients, especially modern patients, it's a combination of patterns all interwoven and intertwined. This is why things like Gui Tong are the most overused and overprescribed medicinals out there, okay? Gui Tong is not probably going to be the best choice for the vast majority of American patients. If they come in with fatigue, as we're going to see here in a minute, or things of that nature, there's a good chance that they are also going to have 1 or 2 excess patterns also. And if you start dumping a supplementing formula like Gui Tong onto a patient that has, say, a bunch of dampness and blood stasis, which is more likely in a modern patient causing their fatigue, at least ostensibly, you're going to make them feel terrible, okay? So we're going to get into why that happens here, and I'm going to make the case for you right now. All right, so this is why you can bet on a liver-spleen disharmony. Predictable repeating patterns, all right? Liver-spleen disharmony and friends, all right? So here is the modern patient. All right, this is a patient that we all recognize. This is us, okay? Factors damaging the liver in the modern world: social media, doom scrolling, right? Desire to comment pisses everybody off. Social media just brings out the worst in everybody. It's so frustrating, and it's so hyper addictive and stimulating, okay? You're not going to find this in the Chinese medicine textbooks. This is what Chris and Rebecca and I have learned over the years, and I'm sure you're seeing it in your practice too, okay? Affect damage, meaning your emotional state, unfulfilled desires. Most people are householders. They have families, they have careers, they have jobs, they have things that their schedules that are set by other people, things that they have to delay their own gratification over and over and over again. This is a classic thing that depresses the liver and leads to chi stagnation. This has been going on probably since the beginning of time. I believe it's so much worse now. Societally, we have this push for individuality, right? The atomized individual. You need to express yourself. You need to have something unique to say. You need to get it out there. You need to have your social media content. You need to have your accounts. You feel the need to do that. And this push to be an atomized individual and to have something to say all the time and to be interesting, and this keeping up with the Joneses thing that's going on all over the world is toxic. And it, again, leads to severe liver depression and chi stagnation. And then just lack of movement. Right? We just don't move very much. So we're sitting in the chair, we've got our phones, our necks are all kinked, we're just scrolling, getting pissed off, or having any other variety of emotion, causing chi stagnation, right? This is a classic modern thing. What about the other side of the factor though, right? The spleen. Excessive calorie consumption. So you combine that with what's going on in the left category. Now we're eating too much. We're overweight. Okay, this is like a huge problem in our population. These modern health foods, like raw diets and cold smoothies. Now, a lot of people think that's a good thing, but we as Chinese medicine doctors know better, right? We know what this does to the middle jiao. A cold, damp spleen is not a good thing, right? Overthinking and excessive onslaught of information nonstop is damaging to the spleen. And then eating with our activities, like multitasking. We're driving, we're eating, we're driving, we're drinking, we're talking, we're eating, all of those things, okay? This sets us up perfectly, on the one hand, for chi stagnation, on the other hand, for chi deficiency. And of course, this is collectively known as the liver-spleen disharmony. I hope everybody knows that, right? That liver-spleen disharmony is liver depression, chi stagnation, and spleen chi deficiency. That's all that means. And it is not overdiagnosed. It's probably underdiagnosed. A lot of our teachers in school say liver-spleen disharmony, but they never really explain why it's such an important diagnosis. And it goes back to Li Dong Yuan, recognizing what we're doing to ourselves. So coming back to the bell curve, you see chi stagnation, heat, blood stasis, damp, chi, over and over and over again. 85% of the time, this is what you'll see. The 15% outliers are going to be things like GU syndrome or maybe acute wind strikes, things of that nature. So now we understand the root of the most chronic health problems, basically, in modern Western patients. So this is where Harmonize makes things easy, all right? Streamlined intake form that Rebecca talked about. It's right here on the left-hand side. One page. It contains targeted questions based on Western patients and the way that they get sick or develop patterns. We have a section for the pulse, which we teach during Harmonize, and we have an area for the tongue diagnosis. And quite literally, when you learn how to use this, the diagnosis simply just jumps right off the page. It tells you the severity, it tells you the treatment principles you need, and ultimately it just funnels you to a formula, which is from the streamlined pharmacy here in the middle. We have about 20 formulas, and there's about 20 singles if you want to go that way and have some what we call enhancers. But 20 formulas is all you need to treat about 85% of your patients. All right. Now, this is something that we've learned over tens of thousands of herbal treatments over the last 15 years. So what we're teaching you is real stuff. This isn't theory. And we have a lot of alums, I'm looking at our audience list right here, who are using this system, and they're doing this every day. And followed by authentic sales training. We put a huge premium on this. We do not do the high pressure sales thing. We do everything in pure service to the patient. It's critical that you have that in your head right from the beginning. And that's why a huge part of Harmonize is focused on that. And I say that at the beginning of the training. If you have eyes to see that what Rebecca is teaching during Harmonize is the heart of everything you need to be successful, okay? So clinical skills are one thing, but also understanding how to authentically connect and provide the service that you have is a whole other thing of equal or greater importance. You can be the best doctor in the world, but if you don't know how to communicate, you get in trouble as far as your business goes. So we call this the 85, 85, 85, all right? 85% of your patients getting 85% better 85% of the time, all right? What this means basically is that perfect is the enemy of good. We know with consistent reliability that on average, you can get 85% of patients better, about 85% better, most of the time. Okay. And when people get caught up in that last 15% and they beat themselves up, they throw the baby out with the bathwater. They think that their treatments didn't work. But the patient, when you ask them, how are you feeling about this? They're ecstatic because an 85% decrease in their symptoms is enormous when someone's been suffering from condition for a very long time. Okay, this brings me to my last section here, and this is where we're going to talk about how to make an extra 15K in 4 months without having to hustle more. Okay, and the thing I want you to pay attention to here is it's not so much about making the extra 15K or the money part of it. It's really about the time it takes you to be able to do this, because when it comes down to it, you want to be able to scale your business up or down to match whatever your unique goals are and your own desires, what you want from your practice. It has to resonate with you, right? And so we've created a system that allows you to see patients in a very short period of time, connect with them very deeply, create rapport, make a diagnosis, fill their formula, make sure that they feel very heard and taken care of, and out the door with their formula, having paid and everything within 15 to 20 minutes. That's the real magic here, okay? So let's take a look at how do we make this a financially viable business model. So the Harmonize way, herbal plans are $500 per month. And we get into this at Harmonize. We talk about, how we arrived here and all of that. But just for tonight, I'm just painting this picture. And we sell 4-month plans. And again, I want you to remember the 85%. This is the vast majority of people that come to see you have had a problem for many years. Typically with about 4 months of herbal care, especially the way that we train you to do this, you can relieve about 85% of their symptoms most of the time, okay? So $500 a month and their 4-month plans. Bear that in mind as we move forward. Now, month 1, to set the stage. All right. So the N's stand for new patients. All right. So a new patient, we have you do a 30-minute initial. This gives you more than enough time with our system. And over time, this will actually get much shorter. You can establish a great rapport. You can really, really connect with the patient, and that's critical. Okay. You can figure out their diagnosis very quickly because you have the streamlined intake form. You know how to do pulse diagnosis and you know how to do the tongue. So it's just like, that's going to take you 5 minutes to figure out what's wrong with them and to select a formula. And that leaves all this extra time to connect with the patient at their initial visit. Make sure they understand everything, set the expectations, do all of the good things you need to do to be the best doctor you can be. Okay. So 30-minute initial. Then again, this is a 1-month plan. So we're going to see them initially for the first week, and then we're going to do 3 follow-ups. Each follow-up will be 15 minutes. Okay. You can make 20 minutes, but 15 minutes actually is what it ends up being. They come in the next week, 15-minute follow-up. How are things going? Switch herbs or just refill if they're doing fine. Week later, same thing. Week later, the same thing. 2, 3, and 4. Okay. That's a new patient. All right. You're spending about 4 hours that first month between the initial visits and the follow-ups with these 3 patients. You're spending about 4 hours of time at your clinic, and you're bringing in about $1,500. Okay. Because each one's a $500 per month plan. So these are new patients, okay? Nobody sees it laid out like this. That's why it's important for you to see this, okay? The next month, those who began in month 1 are now return patients. They're paying $500 each because it's $500 per month. And then you have 3 new patients, okay? This month, you work about 7 hours and you bring in $3,000, okay? The next month, you have 6 returns because the 2 that began, and then you have 3 new patients. So all we're doing is we're adding 3 new herbal patients per month. If you want to add 1, or you want to add 2, or you want to add 10 per month, that's up to you. We go with a sweet spot for 3 because it's relatively easy to do. Typically, you're going to have 3 new patients every month, at least, usually more than that. And if you don't, you can always you can put existing patients on herbal plans also, okay? And so these are just pretty straightforward. So by month 3, you've worked about 10 hours or so, and you brought in $4,500. And by month 4, here's the goal, right? This is very simple, like everything we do at TCM Hub. This is just math. You have 9 return patients, and you have 3 new herbal patients coming in that month for a total of $6,000, and you're working around 13 hours, give or take, all right? So in 4 months, this is why I love this, because it's just sweet, and it had an alliteration to it, so that's why I used it, 4-month fast track to 15K, right? Fine. It only takes you about 33 hours of actual contact with your patients in those 4 months to generate $15,000. It's just math. And the system that we teach shows you how to do that. So you have 33 hours over 4 months. You're making $454 per hour doing herbs, okay? And this is the model that we used, Rebecca, Chris, and I, and scaled this way up. I mean, we were seeing 25, 30, 40, 50 herbal patients per week. Okay, this is just showing 12. Okay, So if you take this 6K, once you hit this point, this is just a sweet spot, and it was also the easiest to fit on the page. You have 9 return patients and 3 new patients. All you have to do is just continue that model. Okay? So 3 new patients, they come in for end of the 4th month, you replace them with 3 new patients. 3 new patients start on month 2, they go through, and then they're replaced again, and so on down the line. All right? So once you hit this stage where you have 12 herbal patients, and you're just replacing, you're having 3 new join every month, it just goes right down the line, which means the first year you're generating around 63K. Now, the beautiful thing I want to show you here is that in the first 4 months, you have 3x your investment in Harmonize, your tuition. And in the first year, you're 10, 11, almost 12 times ROI on your tuition for Harmonize. Okay? And that's only adding 3 new herbal patients per month. And when you do it the way that we teach you, if you do it exactly the way that we teach you, your patients will easily stay on for those 4-month treatment plans. Okay? Which means the next year, you don't have to start with the first kind of slow process. You can just keep going straight through. If you want to stay at 12 herbal patients all the time, you now are generating $72,000 per year in herbs and spending about 13 hours per month doing that to generate $6,000 per month, okay? That should be very clear for everyone. It's just oftentimes because we weren't given an herbal business model, you don't ever see it spelled out like this. You never really get a chance to see it jump right off the page and say, oh, wow, now that's a great funding for retirement, for your kids' tuition, for, anything that you want. And you can scale this, again, up and down any way you want, okay? I just get very excited about this because I love teaching this class. I absolutely love seeing what it does for people when they go home and start using it. So it's a very viable, very scalable and sustainable business model.
Just kind of see some of the results from your actual colleagues or these were all Harmonize alums that we check in with from time to time. So this particular example here, $4,500 a month for herbal plans these days. This was last January, so about a year ago. And this person had gone to the Austin seminar, which was the previous September. So September, October, November, December. So that was like 3-4 months. And at that point was like about $4,500 a month for herbal plans. This one here, I highlighted it because it's kind of long, but yeah, income, sales evenly over 3 months comes to about $3,800 a month. And then just gained more than just herbal system. I gained confidence in prescribing treatments, no matter what they were. It's just so direct income Harmonize is almost 11.5. I'm sure if I dug deeper, I'd do more. But yeah, like in some of these people, it's like it's kind of casual for them, right? I love this one. So 3 to 7 people a week for herbs only, 18 people in January herbs only. So that's 9K. And she's like, yeah, it was very casual. So it's like, yeah, $20,000 in 4 months for Erin there. So you can kind of start seeing this potential, I'm hoping. And, with this kind of earning, you really can start moving the financial needle, no pun intended. But, some of these practicalness, like you can start paying down your student loans really fast. You can build paid time off into your business budget. This is something a lot of people actually really struggle with. You can actually now financially plan ahead for vacations, sick time, time off, whatever you want. And if you say that you want to take off like 3-4 weeks a year, you can budget for that and close your clinic. You can max out your retirement contributions or just start contributing if you're a little bit behind right now. Fully fund your emergency funds for both personal and for business. If you have one, paying off your mortgage, like have a have a mortgage-free house. And then, those are the practical potentials. And now for some of the not so practical stuff, like the fun stuff, which I am demonstrating here with a disco ball. But more planned travel. That's something that a lot of people would really love to do. Remodeling your home, upgrading your self-care, meaning not necessarily more massages or whatever, but like really good, healthy, sustainable, well cared for food is expensive. So if you want to upgrade your self-care, upgrade your grocery budget, take better care of yourself, make more and bigger charitable donations. It's just overall, when you have more financial flexibility, you just have more options of all kinds available to you. So your ideal life, it doesn't happen by accident. It happens with strategy and planning. So if you were to commit all your herbal medicine revenue toward your debt or your savings or your fund, how would that change your life? And especially for those, if you actually have an acupuncture practice that's already providing a pretty good living for you, you could actually use this strategy of channeling all your herbal medicine revenue towards certain financial goals and building your life that way without it affecting your acupuncture practice. So there's just a lot of potential here that's very exciting and really cool. Yeah. So here's our friend again, the struggling herbalist, saying, I really want to prescribe more herbs, but patients don't want them and I end up losing money. But the Harmonize doc says I make an additional $50,000 per year just from prescribing herbs. Let's say my patients can't stand the taste, so they stop taking them and discontinue their treatment. But Harmonize doc, my patients follow my lead and I dispense granules with no issue. I don't have time to get good at this. This is one of those, this probably could have been another myth. You have to be in practice forever in order for you to be good at this, but that's not true. For Harmonize, I was prescribing herbs and selling treatment plans on Monday morning after. Chinese medicine, it's not mystical. It's just the basics done really, really well. But I had to add this last one in here because this is something that a lot of people will say, I don't have space for a pharmacy. And I'm grabbing these photos. You saw this one already, but these are from your colleagues. These are Harmonize alums. These are their pharmacies, their cabinets, right? Nothing fancy, nothing crazy, not taking up the whole wall. You can make it bigger if you want, if you like to tinker around, but this is really all it takes. So it doesn't have to take up, you don't have to rent a huge space just to have a pharmacy, right? And so we're going to wrap up. I always like to end on a high note. These are actually coming from Hub Community. Again, that's our membership group. And we have a special area where people can share their wins. So, this person this was in October. And when did she? Oh, she actually went to Harmonize in the previous September. So a month before I had my highest revenue since opening my practice. And I just got my herbal pharmacy 10 days ago. So at least 5 figures, next month, which has been her goal since opening her practice. So 6-figure club finally grows 6 figures. Thanks to Harmonize, TCM Hub, and we have a GYN residency, part of that too. 7 herbal plans in 2 days to start off the year. Pretty awesome. And, lots and lots of wins here. We've got 8 patients on herbs. One of them is her husband who's making her food as payment. And, lots of successes like migraines, constipation, nausea, all that stuff. So it's really fun to see all the wins here that people are doing. Oh, I love this one at the end. If I could just focus on herbal medicine and hire an associate for Acu, damn, dream practice right there. And that is something that is possible.